a warm welcome to the whole entire team of Kathaa at 8. Shilpa, a warm welcome to you. Uma, Tanya, Matthew, Vineet, Mansi, Rachita, Geeta, Shekhar, Gautam, Shalmali, Shreyas, Ramya, Sai, Viral, Mathangi, Aditya Charan, Nandita, Archana, and Renita, and Arzu. A huge welcome to you all. It's wonderful to kind of have you on with us at UK Asian Film Festival as part of Tongues on Fire. Hope you guys are doing well. First of all, I just wanted to say a huge congratulations on the film. I watched it and I was in absolute awe. And I think, Shilpa, beginning with you, you've been a champion in creating content using multi-regional and high-caliber artists through simple narratives, through ordinary characters as well. So how difficult is it to kind of retain that simplicity when you have an array of actors and narratives involved?
Anuj, firstly, thank you so much, both to you as well as the organizers of the UK Asian Film Festival. Kathaa 8 was an official selection at the festival for the year, but obviously, unfortunately, we couldn't be there. We were all prepared to travel, but yeah, so at least this is happening virtually. So thank you so much for that opportunity, for that support throughout. So I really wanted to thank you and Aman and Dr. Pushpinder Chaudhary for this this recognition and this exposure. So thank you so much. Sorry, your voice was breaking a little bit. So could you please repeat your question?
Yes. So, because of the fact that, you are a champion in creating content using multi-regional and high caliber.
Sorry, I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I think Zoom decided to just kick me out of the chat. Apologies for that. So, my question was, Shilpa, how difficult is it to retain that simplicity when you have an array of actors and narratives involved?
Right. I think simplicity is more of my style, right? So when I made my first, I would say, proper feature film, which is a film called There's Always Tomorrow, Pullaruminium Naligal in Malayalam, I only had 2 actors. And I think it was a very simple film. So that style hasn't changed, whether it's 2 actors or in this case, 18 to 20 actors, right? So that hasn't changed. And each film in itself, they basically stand alone. So I think that also helped. And I keep the narrative, the concept simple because, it's self-produced, it's independently produced. So I have to keep it simple so that I can do it. And we work with very limited resources, very limited time, because Matthew, who is a cinematographer, and Vineet, who did the sound, and the camera guy, Nitish, they flew down to Singapore for just like little more than a week to shoot the film. And so I cannot go for something so bombastic, and we finished the shoot in 9 nights. So that also sort of added to the simplicity, I would say.
Wow, that sounds really incredible. And I think it's very special because, of course, Kathaa at 8 is the world's first anthology film in 8, different Indian languages, written and produced by a single filmmaker like yourself. I mean, so obviously making an anthology film by a sole director itself is very, very difficult. And obviously to sort of make films of different cultures and different sort of, I guess, atmospheres as well within 10 minutes of each segment, that itself must be incredibly, incredibly difficult. So how do you kind of get that correct balance as a filmmaker?
Again, I lost you just at the question. What was the last line? How did you kind of?
Yeah, how did you get that correct balance as a filmmaker?
So I think when it, what is interesting is the films are actually not of different lengths. Punjabi is only 7 minutes and Marathi is actually 15 to 16 minutes. But I think when you actually watch the film, the way they have been lined up, you don't really feel that sort of a difference, because each film is as long as it needs to be. So I didn't make a conscious effort to tweak the time, just so that people get equal footage. I didn't do that. In terms of the cultural balance, I wrote all the scripts in English, and then I worked with each of the cast to sort of work the translations, etc. And sometimes when that happens, I think they add a little bit of the local nuances as well, which is what I've been hearing in terms of feedback. That some of the way things are said, it feels so like colloquial, so natural. So that credit actually goes to the
Wow. I think I kind of lost you towards the end there a little bit.
I think we lost you again, Anuj.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is it more clearer? Apologies for any technical difficulties, especially those who are watching it
No
live.
worries.
We are
No
also
worries.
recording the broadcast, so hopefully we can all it'll be on our UK Asian Film Festival YouTube page as well. So hopefully when if you've been able to miss out, we can catch up then. But I think it's amazing to kind of know how you've managed that craft, Shilpa. I think I'd also like to speak with Vineet and Matthew. So Vineet, you are the music director slash on location sound person, and of course Matthew, you're the cinematographer slash editor for the film. And I guess technical aspects for a film like Kathaah is very important. So how challenging does it become to kind of do the editing and sound in particular, because you're sort of customizing um, these aspects with the narrative? So how difficult is it to kind of manage this? So Matthew, I think we'll start with you and then we'll go to Vinny.
Actually, Anuj, I really didn't get your question. It was getting cut. So can you just repeat it
Yeah.
again?
So how important does kind of sort of editing and sound in a film like Kathaah? So what importance and what role does that play in sort of complementing the narratives in the film?
So basically, Kathaah at 8 as a project was my first work as a on-location sound recordist, and I really didn't have any idea about how this thing is getting done. So I had just practiced it some around 2-3 weeks prior to the shoot. Like it was a training session for me. So like it was a totally a new thing for me. And when I get into the shoot and when I saw all these nuances, so it was totally overwhelming. I mean, like I myself was really zapped on how these things were worked. And while editing the sounds also, I could really feel the the feel they have put in through their act and how important the sound has to play there. And so yeah, it was totally a new experience. And I really think that I'm blessed very much, because this project was something, an eye opener for me, and it was my first feature film too. So yeah.
Wow, well that sounds
So
amazing. I
Anuj,
think
the trivia is that Vineet did a debut with Kathaah at 8, both in terms of music for a feature film as well as in terms of on-location sound recording.
Yeah.
wow, that is incredible. And I think you've done a fab job with that as well. So a huge congratulations, Vineet. I think it's wonderful to kind of see such amazing artists like yourself sort of making their sort of feature film debuts and stuff like that. And I think it's great to sort of hear that. Matthew, I think a similar question to you. How challenging does it sort of become to do the editing and sort of the cinematography as well for multiple films? So how difficult is it, or how challenging is it in particular?
Hi, Anuj. You able to hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, so basically, coming to the edit part, I mean, like when, especially on a project like Kathaa and all, like I am part of it, like right from the pre-production. So, like Shilpa would give the script, and I myself am going to shoot also. So on location itself, like with Shilpa being on location, we do have a mental idea as in like how we are supposed to go with the edit. And with Kathaa at 8, the challenge was like it is like 8 different formats of edit. It should not look like how in a feature film, you have the narrative just going towards the end of a climax. In this, you have to have the start, then you have to have the mid and the climax within the same stories. So every time you are constructing one film after one film. But in Marathi, I mean, like in Kathaa It Ate, the Marathi film, that's the one that I really loved, editing, because that is the first time like I worked on a pattern wherein the person who was speaking are actually not on the frame, and we were treating it like with the emotions, like what the person is taking it like. So the dialogue is being told by someone, but how it is impacting the viewers is expressed through the person who's hearing it. So those kind of challenges were there, there were many such instances. So to summarize all, like it was like a very creative process, and with Shilpa around you, it becomes even more comfortable, the whole process. So yeah, so that's all about like the edit part with Kathaa It Ate. Thank you.
Wow, that is incredible. And I think, Shilpa, you do definitely have that sort of presence as a director as well. You seem to make everyone on your team very comfortable. And I think that's definitely clear from the way I'm sort of interacting with you all. And I think it's just, kudos to you as well on that. So coming on to the Punjabi segment with Charan and Renita, hope you guys are well. Discussions about, and especially in your segment, the sort of concept that we see explored is about children, abandoning their parents at an old age home, and it's that sort of that kind of part is something that's always been prevalent in our lives. So what aspects of your lives, if at all, did you kind of reflect on to kind of bring this authenticity to your segment?
Hi Anuj, thanks for having this. Can you hear me? You can hear me, good. Renita, can I go?
Yes, please.
Okay. So first of all, Anuj, I don't think the story has the kids abandoning the parents. It's just that it's normal course of growth where kids fly the nest, and and parents are left behind in a vacuum, and they've got to think of their life ahead now, when for the last 18, 20 years, they've not been thinking of anything else but about the well-being and the upbringing of their children. So, so you're staring at this, what next in this story? And I think both Renita and I have relatively young kids as compared to the characters we played. So my daughter is 12, and Renita's two daughters are also perhaps early teens and a little below that. So we couldn't draw from our own personal experience in that. But when I read the script properly for the first time, I personally, as a parent, as a father, for the first time realized that my daughter will one day go. She will go to university. And that hit me like a thunderbolt. I had never ever thought about that. I had always assumed that, she's part of her life, she's always going to be part of her life, and that we'll wake up every morning and she'll be there coming out of her bedroom, giving us a hug and a kiss. So the thought that one fine day the kids are going to fly away, it hit me like a bolt. And that emotion that I experienced when I read the script was useful when playing the character. And so I could bring some amount of realism, I hope, in that. But yeah, Renita, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Singapore, we can hear you.
UK, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So for me, I think it worked the other way around. I've always been very prepared. Okay, great. I've always been very prepared. Like my elder one is 16, and it's easy for me in a way because I could relate to the character quite well. And as a parent, I have the similar thinking to what these characters had in the movie. I would love to be with, I mean, in an old age home or never be dependent on my kids. I would never ever wish for that. So it did very, very well for me.
Yes, and I think like your segment sort of outlined as well. I think it just shows about, I guess, the expectations versus reality. You know, that sort of conflict, and I just think it's so wonderful with the way it's so simply done, but yet it's so effectively done. I think kudos goes to you and Charan as well, and of course Shilpa as well, for managing that simplicity and the way it's so effective. And I definitely do think it was wonderful to see that. But I think moving on to the Tamil segment, with Geeta, Mathangi, and Prem. First of all, a welcome to you three. And I think your story as well was very powerful and very empowering and relevant as well. So your story obviously exhibits a woman who wishes kind of, well, the sort of dialogue goes by a woman who wishes to divorce her partner because he mentally mistreats her. And there's obviously a few issues between them. But going by the sort of reaction and the sentiments that's actually explored in your segment, why do you think divorce is still a taboo issue? And how can we normalize that through cinema?
Anuj, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
For whom was that?
Yeah, we can hear you
Yes,
now.
now.
Okay.
Could you repeat the
So we
question?
didn't get the
Yeah.
question that you asked. Yeah.
So going by the sort of reaction and sentiments explored in your segment, in the Tamil segment, why do you think divorce is still, you know, considered to be a taboo issue, and how can we normalize that through cinema?
Hi, Anuj.
Hi.
So, Geeta, do you want to answer or shall I go?
You go for it. You go ahead.
Okay. I guess it's still a taboo word because of the traditions that we follow, you know, the way of life that Indians follow, especially when marriage is a very serious uh, concept that we try and hold on to. So it's going to take a while for the whole divorce topic to be normalized because it's not a very easy thing to even for the couple. It's not a very easy thing to part ways after spending you know, a few years together and having grown together as people, as parents. So to come to that decision is difficult in the first place, and to implement it with the understanding of the elders around us, the only way forward is to keep talking about it and, you know, exchange perspectives and ideas and reasons, provided the reasons are solid ones, you know, not flimsy trivial stuff. So it's going to take a while, and for the whole topic to be normalized, and we need to talk a lot. And films, one of the most strongest mediums of conveying ideas. So,
And if I may add to what Matangi just said, I think the other part is about empowering the women. It's about educating the woman, sort of giving her the strength, the family and friends and society, to give her the strength to make that decision, and also about identity. So I think if it all comes together, where you empower the woman and you trust the woman to make that decision, and move away from society and more about a future, more about making some decisions for herself, that would be the good start to normalizing and, you know, moving away from what Matangi said, like a taboo word, because it's ultimately it's about relationships. So there cannot be a taboo word about it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I also found it very fascinating. I think, Prem, I think you were playing a mute character in that segment as well. So can you hear me? Am I? Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Apologies. Apologies for that. I think Zoom has sort of knocked me out again. So apologies for those watching at home as well for the technical issues. We're trying our best to resolve it. But thank you so much, everyone, for your ongoing sort of support. Sorry, so Geeta, I think you were saying something before I went off. So you were saying something. What were you saying?
So what I was saying is that I think your question was, how do you normalize it? How do you take away that taboo associated with divorce? I think what's important is to understand is that that there is an individual identity for a woman, and therefore you need to empower her. And that empowerment comes in from parents, from friends, from people around you, as well as from education. So if you make a lot of time, divorce is more a taboo word, not because parents or the so-called society is not aware of the problems. It's because the individual is not possibly economically and financially independent. So that would be the starting point to make her stand on her feet, to support her in society, to stand on her feet, to empower her, to enrich her, to get her skills built so that she can move forward in life. It's sometimes the decisions to avoid a divorce is more linked to financial dependency rather than to say that you are suffering. It's none of it. It's either suffering or it's you're not happy. So it's more around that to say you deserve happiness too.
Wow, I think that is so well said, Geeta. I think we all can sort of I guess sort of take a leaf out of that and actually reflect on that. Can you hear me? Am I not being...
You're on mute.
Oh, okay. I've unmuted myself. Hi, am I being heard? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, apologies again for that. I'm so...
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, great. But I just wanted to say, Geeta, thank you so much for that. I think Prem also, you had a very interesting character in the film, because even though he was mute, he was very supportive towards the main character and her decision to sort of take this sort of to divorce. And I think that was wonderful. It's quite interesting how he was mute, but yeah, he was very supportive as well. So what is your...
Sorry, you're breaking off.
So what is your take on the question that I asked Geeta as well about normalizing divorce? What would be your perspective on that? Hello, Prem, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Maybe so we can continue.
Right, sorry. Yeah, I think something. So I think again the Wi-Fi was playing up. I have no idea why. I've done so many Zoom interviews. It's been alright, but I don't know what's happened today. I have no clue. But I think Prem, sorry, just to come back to you. So again, just speaking about your perspective as well. On the question that I asked about normalizing divorce, because again, your character was very interesting. It was mute, but was very supportive. So what would you like to say on that topic as well?
Well, I like what Geeta was mentioning, Anuj. Thanks a lot for inviting us on the show, basically. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I just wanted to say, follow up with what Geeta said. It's very important that the family also be supportive towards their sort of kids, basically. Whether it's sister or brother or anyone from the family who's going through the particular process. It's not that the individual wants to go through the process, but it's sometimes, it happens that, the two people or, two individuals can't stay under the same roof for some other reason. Now, it's not necessarily that happens even at the corporate level where, you don't like a particular job, you don't want to continue over there, you want to leave out from there. That happens that way, right? So something very similar in the personal life as well. And that probably comes through like what my sister in the film, Matangi, just said, that we have to educate. And that probably one of the best mediums is probably through films. And that's what your question was, basically. Why films, basically, yeah. Because the medium is so powerful that, you can come across, you can probably send out across your message to a very, very large audience, probably. And as far as I'm concerned, for me in the film, as a brother, what I was looking at is yes, you wanted your sister to get married, etc., and then you send her off. But subsequent to that, did I follow up on her life? Did I check on her? Was she happy? Was she not happy? I don't know. So that probably, that guilt feeling probably has been there with me. And secondly, I could relate to her as to what she was going through probably. And like they always say, blood is thicker than water. So yes, probably somewhere down the line, I could feel that she was definitely having a problem there. And that is why probably I said, okay, look, whatever you're doing is right. And whatever gives you happiness, please follow that. And that's it.
Yes, and I think it's fascinating as well because I've never really seen a film, especially an Indian film, which sort of talks about the idea um, of perhaps an estranged couple just staying together for the sake of their kids. And I think that was something really, really interesting. And I really liked that about your segment as well. So thank you so much for that. I think that was wonderful to sort of hear this perspective. And I think definitely very thought-provoking as well. But I think in addition, it's great to see other social subjects being normalized. And I think coming to the Telugu segment with Rachita and Sai, I think your segment was probably, it touched me the most. I did get quite emotional actually watching that segment. And it's really refreshing to see a visual of a person dealing with cancer in a sensitive and ordinary matter rather than, sort of doom and gloom with the Rona Dhona and all of that. It's just so different to sort of see that. So how can, again, Indian cinema as a whole present stories, which are on cancer, but in a more mature way like you have? So Rachita, will begin with you.
Sure. So the beauty of this film itself, I think, is the fact that life does throw surprises at you. It's not a planned set of events. You can't really plan it out. And when something like that happens and it puts you way behind what you've already planned for life, you do not know how to react because it's a rude shock. But again, when you're in a situation, I think that's what Shilpa has tried to portray in her film, right? That when a situation like that happens, when you're helpless and you do not know how to handle it, you either mourn over the situation and go through low phases and still deal with it, versus take it positively, go with a positive mind and say, we'll fight this out. And eventually, irrespective of what the result might be, quality of life, as they say, is far more important than the quantity of life. So the turning point in the film where the siblings decide to take this on, fight it out, and move on from there, I think is key, as you said. And that is a message that has touched many other people, and we've received like some good feedback on that front as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, again, it's just so great to see that. And I think it's a good beacon of change as well, where we sort of see a concept of how, like sometimes, and often as well, that we've seen in cases as well in Bollywood recently as well, where with, actors like Manisha Koirala, who's really, bravely fought cancer and she's recovered well from it. And I think it's important to make sure that and realize that it is not always a death sentence. There's always hope. And, we've all got to just confront it bravely. I think Sai, coming to you as well, same question as well. How can Indian cinema as a whole present stories on cancer maturely and sensitively, like your segment in Kathaa at 8?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anuj, for having us. I think maybe I can speak a little bit about the short film itself, just the portion of the whole film, the Telugu portion. And I think what made it so relevant and relatable is the fact that these are two human beings who are dealing with a rude shock and they are unsure how to respond to this. And I think that's what life is, right? At the end of the day, you go through this journey and sometimes you're thrown curveballs, as Rachita was saying, and you just absolutely have no clue how to respond and react. And I think that's what film does really well, which is, I think we lost you, Anuj. Oh, no, sorry. No. I'm there. You're there. And I think that's what film does really well, right? Film brings out all these different conflicts that people have within themselves, and it shows. It has the ability to, as a viewer, for you to get an insight into what goes on in people's minds. And really, human beings are so complex. And when someone's dealt a situation such as this, how do they react? And there's no template. How Rachita and I portrayed our characters dealing with this situation could be completely different from how someone else would react. And I think that's the beauty of film, which is it just gives you a snapshot of the complexity of human beings and how turbulent life can be, but at the same time, how there's so much to look forward to.
I think that is very spot on, and I think again it's very well handled. I think it was really refreshing to see a sort of brother and sister relationship, rather than a couple dealing with it. I think that was something that really sort of impressed me the most as well. So I kind of mentioned how like social subjects were normalized in the film, and I think moving on to the Marathi segment with Gautam and Shalmali. First of all, hello, hope you're sort of doing well, and thank you for sort of for being there and like sort of with the patience, because I know the technical issues are sort of ongoing at the moment. But you both play a couple which sort of deals with infertility and the social stigma attached to it. Given that the concept is high on emotions, how challenging was it for you as actors to sort of prepare for it and kind of delve into that sort of part of you as humans and bring those emotions out? So Gautam, we'll begin with you.
Sure. First of all, Anuj, technical challenges, not a problem. Okay. And it's not we who are being patient, it's just you and everybody else who's watching MV. So thank you, everybody, and thanks to you as well. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. Typically, as you've also been touching upon this theme, that how are these social problems basically portrayed in our movies, right? So what we've always kind of, at least in my opinion, I've seen that, these social problems have always been typecasted, right? Most of the times what happens is the cruelty is not very, very direct, or it's not very, very melodramatic. It happens at a very subtle level as well, right? The pressures, I mean, it's the couple's desire is one thing, but the taunts that she receives and because of which she has to suffer, that's actually very, very subtle, right? And that's never touched upon in the movies. So when we read the script, we basically realized that what Shilpa has written, and whenever we rehearsed and whatever we heard from her, we realized that she also wants to present this in a very subtle manner, right? So that was our cue. When we read that and when we understood the intention of the storyteller and the filmmaker as to how do we do that, right? After that, the journey was actually pretty simple. All we had to actually focus on that human element, the subtle cruelty that is being inflicted upon this couple, right? And how are they actually finding strength in their love for each other? And once we get that theme, I think, it was pretty simple for us.
Think definitely, and I think it's really different as well because a lot of these subjects as well, like you mentioned, it's wonderful to see like regional cinema in a way as well sort of tackle these subjects, because I guess sort of you would probably hear glimpses of them or see glimpses of them, but you wouldn't actually see a full film based on these sort of subjects. So I think it's wonderful to hear that. But I think Shalmali, also coming on to you as well, how challenging was it for you to kind of reflect on that aspect and bring those emotions out, because it must have been quite challenging for you as well, because obviously it talks about the sort of gossiping and the harsh words of society. So how did you deal with exploring that aspect?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Anuj. Thanks for having us all here. Like Gautam said, subtlety was the key, and it was actually challenging to play it low key, because that was Shilpa's expectation, right? So we had a perfect guidance on the degree of crying that was needed in the cinema. So we were not actually allowed to cry out, and wherever I was crying, she's cut the scene, and the camera rightly pans on Gautam, like Jenny Bhai rightly said. So that hits the audience the most, I think, when you don't actually see it and hear it out and feel it. So it was very difficult to contain it and still show the emotion, because crying is easy. Not crying, getting there choking and not crying is quite difficult. So subtlety was the key, like Gautam highlighted, I would say. But Fantastic. Of course, on a personal level, it definitely affects you. The character affects you, because I'm a mother of a young kid. So you can really feel it, right? So that affects you, but then at the end of the day, you have a glass of wine and it's all dusted.
I love that. I think that's so beautifully explained and beautifully handled as well. But I also find it very fascinating because Kathaa 8 also subtly looks at certain segments which are about one-sided, unrequited segments, unrequited sentiments rather. And I think sort of beginning that aspect, I would like to speak with Viral and Shekhar regarding the Gujarati segment. First of all, Kemcho, I hope you're keeping well. I just wanted to sort of say that there's a sort of mature discussion on death and unrequited love in your part. As actors, how did you get into that zone to have this intense yet compassionate conversation? Because obviously, it's quite intense, and it's obviously very uncensored, because obviously you're talking about the real raw emotions. So how difficult was it for you to kind of get into that aspect as well? Shekhar, I think we'll begin with you. Shekhar, I think you're on mute. Sorry. Yeah.
Now you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So the storyline was about an old couple who has only one son. Very, very obviously very dear to them. He gets married and the daughter-in-law comes in and she becomes so attached to them that instead of looking at her as a daughter-in-law, they start looking at her as their own daughter. And then the son dies. So at that point of time, how do this couple react? That's the whole concept of the story. I felt at times that it could have been handled a little differently, but no, then later on when thinking about it, I said, no, the way it has been handled, that is the way it should be. And when a young man comes in and tells this couple, not the couple, but the father, that he wants to get married to this girl, what would be the reaction of the man? He wouldn't like to let her go. At the same time, he wants to make her happy and live her life. So all that reactions had to be shown in that. For me, unfortunately, I am not a person who thinks about this and starts getting into the character. I go on the set and then become that character and shoot that. So for me, it was not very difficult, but it was quite difficult working with Shilpa. She made sure that I had to, basically, like I said before also, I'm a stage actor. So when you go in front of the camera, Shilpa made sure, she said, no hand movement. You have to show it only with your facial expressions. So it was a challenge. And I thought I and Viral did a good job.
No, you definitely did. And I think it was such a beautiful relationship that we kind of, it's almost this bond, this understanding between you both. And I think that was so wonderful to sort of observe as well. Viral, coming on to you as well, I think same question goes out to you. I mean, how did you sort of, how did you get into that zone to have this sort of compassionate conversation with Shekhar sir on screen?
Sure. And Kemcho, Anuj bhai, pleasure to speak with you. Unlike Shekhar uncle over there, I'm not that experienced. So it took me a while. Right? It took me some getting used to it, some thinking about it. But the difference is, see, many storylines within Kathaa as well, you have either seen it portrayed on screen a lot in one way or the other. You've had some kind of a personal experience or anecdotally heard something about, all of these experiences. What stands out about the Gujarati story is that is not an outwardly spoken experience, or it does not register very high on people's emotional requirements. Right? Like this is okay, well, tough luck, but you were married and whatnot. But a widow's remarriage is not something that is hardly ever touched upon in most of the regular cinema. So there was little to draw upon, right? in terms of research of what you can do. So what helped is, of course, a couple of things. So the direction was very clear to the point. Scaling it back from the melodramatic stuff that you are accustomed to in theater versus how it should look on camera. So both Shilpa, Jenny, Vineet, all of them helped a lot in terms of setting that straight. Personal preparation, I suppose you spend a little bit of time thinking about or postulating as to how this character would feel given a certain circumstances, given your experiences to it. So it's a extrapolation. There is no one-for-one comparison. So there is a little bit of doing that, but there were a couple of emotional exercises which Shilpa made us do during and outside of rehearsals, which helped us kind of get into the mode of thinking of how to become this character rather than how to act the character. Sorry, we can't hear you.
That is incredible. And I think, I think it's interesting as well, because like I said as well, even in Gujarati cinema, which is, I believe, is on a revival at the moment as well, but very rarely you would see such a mature and sensitive storyline in a Gujarati film. And I think it's just so wonderful to sort of see Shilpa and all of you actors sort of bring out these other topics through the different languages, and I think it really is a celebration of life and different aspects, and I'm really glad to sort of hear that. Thank you so much for that, Shekhar sir and Viral. The Malayalam segment actually with Archana and Shreyas was also quite a cool segment. Actually, it was wonderful to sort of see you both explore your expertise in this segment. Archana and Shreyas, you both are exponents in dance and martial arts. So what was it like to kind of incorporate your areas of passion and expertise into a narrative which was pretty much roughly about one-sided love and estranged friendship? So what was that whole experience like for you to sort of bring your passion and your sort of love for dancing and martial arts respectively through that? So we'll begin with Archana.
Okay, so hi Anuj, thanks for having us here. So starting off, actually, I think half of the movie was taken care of by the dance because that part was easy. But as far as the character was concerned, for me, mostly it was a very light topic as compared to the others. The other stories were more intense. So as compared to the others, it was more light. It was lighthearted. It was something that most of my friends go through, and like it's that age for me as well, where this is what's going on in most of our lives. So for me, connecting and relating to the character wasn't really that difficult. That was a very easy part. And having Shreyas, I've known Shreyas for a while, so the chemistry was also not too difficult. The most difficult part was actually bringing out the anger, because I'm not someone who emotes anger that easily. So that was one of the toughest part for me. But other than that, I feel like this story, all in all, is just a very simple story, and it's done even more, like there's nothing that you can make huge out of it. It's something very light and something simple. So this is a very simple story. That's what is this in the end of the day. Sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. It becomes really scary because I try to speak and I'm like, why can't they hear me? What's going on? But then I realize I'm on mute. So, but yeah, I think yes, it's true. It is definitely I wouldn't say it's more less serious, because of course that still was serious in your character's eyes, but yes, I think in comparison to some of the others, it wasn't as heavy for sure. But Shreyas, I think coming on to you as well, same question. What was it like to sort of bring in your martial arts expertise to sort of this character? How much was that a bit of a relief for you as well?
Thanks, Anuj. Well, first things first, I have to say, one of the main reasons I got the role was because of the martial arts expertise. Clearly, you can see I'm not a very good actor in the first place. But at least Shilpa was like, okay, he can lift his legs and do something like that. And okay, so it won't be a complete accident. But yeah, so we went in, and like Archana said, the difficulty was it's a very simple story. It's basically a guy rejecting a girl. And this also was a problem for me because Shilpa told me, usually in a movie, the villain is the one who does this. Is a very sweet girl is coming up to you and she's saying, I like you, I have feelings for you, and you're saying no. Usually the audience tends to hate a person like this. So if you do your job well, if you're able to convey to the audience that you did this out of some sort of maybe feelings of friendship towards her, something more platonic, it'll be fine. And everybody who knows me knows this. I never reject anyone because only very few people ask in the first place. So it was, so yes, I had to work really hard to bring out that emotion of rejecting a girl, and Shilpa, of course, helped me out a lot. But in the end, yes, incorporating a martial arts element into it really helped a lot, because acting can be a very physical process, and so can be martial arts. So it was fun. Yeah.
Wow, that's a very interesting perspective with the way Shilpa's kind of briefed you, actually. Because it's true, actually, we do end up hating the person who rejects the sort of girl, or the person who has those pure feelings as well. So I can totally understand that. But it's very well sort of adapted and very well said, actually. So huge congratulations as well on that. The Bengali segment, I think, was very thought-provoking, very relevant, and incredibly funny as well at times, very darkly funny. And I think playing a group, especially Tanya, Ananta, Aditya, and the entire crew of the the sort of the film, playing a group of conflicting individuals with deep-rooted familial issues in 10 odd minutes is not easy for an artist, because obviously this sort of issues that we see explored within that film has been going on for a long time. So how do you all kind of manage to sort of I guess bring that onto screen as an artist, like, because you're supposed to only act from what you're given. So how did you kind of deal with that? Tanya, we'll begin with you. You're on mute. Tanya, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Anuj. Thank you for the question. And well, I must say that Shilpa has got a very structured way of doing the whole process, starting from rehearsals to the shoot. And one of the most important things that she gave all of us, not only the Bengali actors, but everyone, was a set assignment. And I think it's really helped us to work on ourselves to make the character very relatable to the audience, and also to find out what was the objective for the actor there, for the character there. So I think that kind of explains it all. The Bengali story, yes, was funny. Was one of I think was the only story which was really funny, and she brought that element of humor in it, especially between the daughter-in-laws and the fact that my husband, the character who played Bohm, was also like, he was henpecked, and he was kind of, he had to, it showed the dynamics of my relationship with him, which is, it said that in most cases, Bengali husbands are like that. So that was kind of the funny aspect that she kind of brought in. So yeah, I think so. The assignments really helped, and it was overall a fun process. Yeah. Anybody else wants to add to that? Anuj, you're on mute.
I made the same. Yeah, exactly. So, Anandita, coming on to you as well. Same question, I think, that I asked Tanya, which was about, what was sort of your approach like for the segment, sort of presenting this conflicted relationship. So what was your process like?
So one thing is understanding the situation and the plot. So if you look at it, we had some audience reaction that they are great characters or they are funny characters, but underlying all of it was very real people with just having conflicting interests. They had their own insecurities. They had like a past, right? They had a past that made them think what they did about each other. There were familial and rivalries between the daughters-in-law. There was, so understanding all of the various emotions and the backstories of the characters in the play, in the film, it really I think helped all of us to understand our relationships with each character. So my relationship with Sekat, who played my husband, his relationship with the younger daughter-in-law, the younger Bahu, Aditya's wife, right? And because of that, what is my rishta, what is my relationship with her? And so all four of them had different relationships with each other. So understanding that, and through the assignments that Shilpa gave us, and through our rehearsal process, trying to uncover the layers of our characters, I think that is what helped us play the roles in a way which were, I mean, we did not want to play them as gray characters. We did not want to, but we are just very real characters who had conflicting interests, and everybody wanted their, their interests to be put up forth. But at the end of the day, they were not very mindful of the emotions of the father who was in the household. And that twist at the end really, made the whole conversation, gave the whole conversation a completely different, end result. That, if this conversation was, the same conversation was happening post the father's death, it has a completely different relevance versus having that conversation when he is there present in the house with you. How sensitive are you to the person's feeling if somebody overhears that conversation? He's an elderly person who's kind of given birth to the two boys and brought them up, and possibly sacrificed a lot throughout his life for that child. So yeah, I think the assignments and our rehearsal processes really helped us get into the skin of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And as Tanya mentioned, it was a riot. The Bengali film, our rehearsal processes, our even our film shoots. If you look at some of our BTS videos, it was just all like a huge fun riot. That's
yes,
all
absolutely. It definitely seemed that. And Aditya, I think I would like to get your perspective as well on working on this segment as well. Again, a similar process. I believe, did you have a similar process to Tanya and Anandita as well?
Absolutely. So firstly, thank you for this opportunity. I believe we are on the world's longest running festival to platform independent and South Asian cinema. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Anuj, and to the entire team. Kem cho tume badda, I hope majama. And so I think the process was very similar. What makes it simple is, I think, firstly is great writing and clarity in thought in the director, followed by a very strong technical team that makes the performance job relatively much easier. Because when we went into rehearsal, as Anandita and everyone mentioned, the entire process of preparation, be it your assignments or be it actually rehearsing, that entire process was fantastic. I mean, these are situations that happen in everyday life across India. It's just that the scale differs and the intensity differs. And like all things Bengali, I think to me the pivotal line in this cinema is about we really not wanting to go to court. That clearly tells you that we want to have a table discussion, and that is exactly what was happening through the movie. So I really think that, coupled with the entire process of trying to study what the characters and things like that would look like, has been a brilliant experience. So yep. Anuj?
I'm still, honestly, I'm still left thinking what they had for dessert, to be honest. I really want to know what was for dessert, because as soon as it left us in a bit of a cliffhanger, Shilpa. I think we should have known what they had, But no,
It's a dish called baked rasgulla, which is like rasgullas baked with the layer, which has been prepared for our virtual after party, whatever that means.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I'm up for that. And I'm speaking of dessert and speaking of sweet, thank you so much, Tanya, Aditya, and Ananda for that. Speaking of sweet, Arzu, coming on to you. Thank you so much for waiting so patiently. And I just wanted to say that cake that you baked in the film looks really delicious. And it's such a shame that your husband could not have that cake. But alas, you enjoyed it yourself. But I think on a bit more of a serious note, I mean, you've had arguably the most tough segment, as you are the sole actor. So given that this was quite a lonely experience in this to some extent as well, because you're having only sort of reflecting on yourself, how sort of difficult was it for you to kind of do that. What were your key responsibilities for that? You're on mute.
Hi, Anuj. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, it's nice to be here with you and the whole team. So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So the Assamese part is about the love bonding between the two individuals. But in this case, you can see that the bonding is not equal from both sides. So the strong point is that the movie is too so how a woman took such a bad situation uh, in the strike and how she can move on with her. So to be frank about it, the character that I played is a very much different than my own character. So definitely it was a bit challenging for me. But I really loved the script. I loved that way the movie shows the empowerment of women. Hello?
Yes, I think it's wonderful as well because I think it's difficult because, you know, I mean, even though you had like someone over the phone, but to kind of, I guess, play that thoughts and then yourself as well, to say your dialogues and then your thoughts. I think it was incredible to see that. So that must have been quite rewarding for you as well, right?
Yeah. So, okay, so I continue this one though. So it was also amazing to work with Shilpa, who helped me a lot of many rehearsals. So what is important to role is that life doesn't always go on the way we want.
Yeah.
It has to means it's ups and downs. So need to take it the way it presents itself and make the most of it. And I think this is what Shilpa wanted to portray through this movie.
Yes, expect the unexpected. You know,
Yeah.
life never. You know, we think it's going somewhere, but then it completely just shifts gears and it takes us into a complete different direction. Definitely, I think that's wonderful as well. And it was wonderful to hear an Assamese language segment as well. So I'm really, really glad. So thank you for that, Arzu. Thank you so much for that. Uma, coming on to you as well. You know, on a final note. Yeah. So on a final note, Uma, how do you hope Kathaa at 8 will change the audience's perspectives on viewing content which is not in the Hindi language and in in the anthology format? You know, what do you think what change do you hope to see now from following the film?
Hi, nice to meet you and thank you for having us. I guess now as everyone becomes more global with things that you see, because you see a lot of content in different languages, like I myself watch a lot of stuff in Japanese or Korean. I think it's interesting to just see how, even though the languages, you may not be speaking them, the things that they say, the messages that they portray, and the way that people act out these messages are very similar. So I think as a global audience, anyone can relate to any of the stories and anyone can appreciate how the characters are portrayed.
True. And Mansi, what would you like to say on that as well?
I think if we think about the process of Kathaa at 8, it's important to take it back to the creator. And Shilpa, if I'm not wrong, is most familiar with one of the languages, whereas the rest Tamil I think she's a little familiar with, but the rest of them are very new to her. And I think that in itself demonstrates that at the end of the day, our emotions, the way we think, the way we react, no matter which part of the world we come from, it's very similar. And with the COVID situation, with us all being able to access content from around the world, I think at the end of the day, a film like this just goes to show, or rather, I guess, leads the way for us. And for people to be more open to different types of content. So I think no longer is there going to be that hesitation. If I see something on, some OTT platform, which is in another language, I'm not going to hesitate to try it out. And I think that's key. And that is a big win for all of us, because that just opens up so many more opportunities for the entire independent filmmaking community and the community that's making content for the online world.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I think that's a really big aspect, because I thought the OTT platform itself has made us really confident in consuming sort of content which is very different from the mainstream side of things. So how do you think, Shilpa, the sort of OTT platforms, like, because I believe Tashi and your films are normally on YouTube, right? So how do you hope that even OTT platforms, like for example Netflix and Amazon Prime, how do you think they will help to sort of give prominence and give more popularity to independent cinema?
I'm glad you asked this question, Anuj, because my team knows this. I get really annoyed when people come and tell me, why is your film not on Netflix? Why is your film not on Amazon Prime? That's not the question that you asked. So I like the way you phrased your question. And the reason why I get annoyed is because it's not easy. Like if you've read Netflix's technical documents, it's like some 40 pages. Okay. Now, Kathaa 8 and Tashi, etc., the max that we've done is for like a GCP, mainly because the film festivals require that, including UK Asian, right? But when you go to a Netflix or Amazon Prime, what we came to learn is that their requirements are far beyond that. Okay, so everything from subtitling, like I do subtitling personally myself. I sit and do it myself, I don't have anybody working on it for me. So for somebody like that, these OTTs are actually very difficult to get to. And they have the sort of quality checks and things like that. That's number one. Number two, it is a misconception that they're that open to independent cinema. Actually, they're not. Okay, so they do need either a star or a known director or a known production house or some sort of support from somewhere, none of which we have. Okay, so I'm, initially when people used to ask me about it, I'd be like, okay, I'll try and all that. And we really made an effort. Okay, like now I can say that. Initially we didn't, but now I can say, today I can say I made an effort. And it's very difficult. It's not about the content actually. It's about a lot of other things. So I think, yes, OTT platforms are great in the sense it brings a variety of content, but not independent content. So that I would say is the key difference. And then for me, what I've realized over this last couple of months, once I put up Tashi on YouTube and Kathaa on YouTube, is it's a great platform. Like I don't make money out of it, obviously, like whatever the investment, that's okay, right? But I've only invested the sort of money that I'm okay to invest and let it go down the drain. Like it's a hobby for me, so my budgets are really low as well. So just the fact that when it went out to the world, how people reacted to it, the sort of reactions we got, the responses, the feedback, the reviews, it's been so fulfilling, I can't tell you, that I feel like, why didn't I just do this earlier? What was the point of holding on to these films for so long? And with that, I will tell you that my next film, Dots, which was made during lockdown, and I think this is the first time it will be like publicly announced. So that's also going to go on YouTube on July 30th.
Oh, wow.
And UK Asian Film Festival has given us incredible support when we actually premiered Dots on June 13th. We just had a single screening.
Yes.
Dots also went through this entire will it go on an OTT? And then finally I said, enough. Let it go out to the world. It's fine. This is incredibly fulfilling, and that's what we'll be doing. So yeah, July 30th, new film coming up. So please do watch, everyone.
Definitely. No, I've heard some amazing things about Dots. I'm really looking forward to the film as well. I think it just sounds amazing like Kathaa. But I think speaking of Kathaa, actually, I had a question. I think you know, did you sort of, you know, when you do you write the scripts in the languages, you know, or how do you decide which segment would be in which language? And did you pick actors based on that in particular for Kathaa?
No, so actually, when I had this thought of making these films in the various languages, you see, if I just write a lot of scripts and say, okay, I want to make this in Telugu and I want to make this in Gujarati, etc., and then sort of try and figure out the actors, that could get pretty difficult in Singapore, right? Because it's a small community. So well, I did it the other way around. I did an open call on Facebook asking for people who are interested in acting, just come on board and tell me what languages you speak. And accordingly, I, wrote some of the scripts. Not all of them, but most of them were customized and written like that. So for example, Rachita and Sai told me they can speak Telugu, so I cast them as siblings and wrote, customized script. Like Charan and Renita can speak Punjabi, so then, they were a couple. So that's how it was sort of done. Just a couple of them, like the Marathi ones, I had the script and then I thought, okay, I actually went out and looked for Marathi actors, but otherwise it was customized to the actor.
Oh, cool. That is really, really fascinating. So again, we have some more actually audience questions as well. Some very interesting ones actually. So Dr. Ameya Tanavade says, would you say the film conveys the message that life is incomplete, but that incompleteness makes it complete? Is that what you're trying to say through the film?
I think, thank you for the question. I think the person has articulated it more beautifully than I could have. Yes, that's a very beautiful way of looking at it. The way I would have probably articulated is, there are always issues. Everybody has a different issue. So what Kathaa at 8 is basically telling you is that if you walk into any town, any city at 8 o'clock, you walk into 8 different households, they would be going through something very different, right? So somebody could be having a bad time, somebody could be having a worse time or a better time. So no matter what situation there is, still you have to deal with it and you have to move on, and there is hope, right? And that after 8 segment, the last bit where you sort of see the people again is one place where you sort of realize you basically see them dealing with it in various ways. So in Rachita's case, she's praying, whereas in the brother's case, he's staring at space. So
yeah, that's very, very that's very true as well. But I think another question that we have as well is, why are the stories in Kathaa at 8 full of sorrow? It feels to me there is an undercurrent of sadness throughout. So if
yeah, so actually a couple of people did, I think, send this feedback either through the cast or others, and it was, I actually don't think Kathaa at 8 is full of sorrow. I actually think Kathaa at 8 is full of hope, right? There are issues, whether those issues make you sad, of course, many of them do, but you deal with it, right? The toughest one is, again, maybe the Telugu or the Gujarati or the Assamese, but like I always say, if nothing else works, you still have your cake, right? And that gives you hope. So
yeah, definitely, that is very true as well. So obviously, I think another reader just sort of, or viewer just asked me this question. She tends to work with the same artists again, like Sai is also in Dots as well. Charan and Tanya are both in Tashi. So you sort of tend to work with the same artists again. Why is that the case?
So firstly, they work for me. So it's also about who wants to work with me, right? But I think it's in Katha's case, it was also the language suitability as well, I would say. But for me, having fun is very important. I make the film for the process, for the fun, and I keep saying this is not about the outcome or the OTT or the commercial success of it, right? So making it, having fun is very important. So I just get people who I'm comfortable with, and if they fit the role, that's great, right? So that's how it really works.
So we've got a question for Remya and for you, Shilpa. How did the films change you as a person? Were you the same person while coming out from the other side of the tunnel after every film? So Remya, I think we'll begin with you actually for this.
Yeah, so Ramya, let Ramya answer, because Ramya assisted me on both Tashi and Kathaa at 8. So she's been through 2 films, right? Let's hear from her.
Okay, firstly, hello. So I think in one sentence, if I could say the answer, it would be I have an extended family now. So that's one thing that has changed a lot in my sense.
Oh, lovely. And Shilpa, what about you?
I would say the same, right? I mean, I think it goes back to your previous question as well, in the sense, what do I take away from each film? I mean, it's really that the relationships that's made, the memories that are made. And Kathaa specifically has been extremely fulfilling for me. This team, like, we are really like a family. I don't know how many people will outside this team will actually understand and appreciate it, but we're like so close knit and, you know, like always full of fun. And we're going to have an after party after this, okay, virtually. I don't know how it will go, but we are like well prepared for the after party. So we are like that, you know. I started working on Kathaa, the first few scripts in June 2018. And in September, I think, or October, we had the first full cast, like a briefing session. So since that day, this team is together. And it's just been so incredible. So I would say with each project, that's what I take with me, the people.
Sure. I think that's wonderful. I think because we're sort of coming towards the end of the chat, I think I wanted to sort of wrap up our Q&A today just with, I guess, because lockdown has been very difficult for a lot of us. I mean, obviously, it's been a very unprecedented time. I mean, Shilpa, for you, it's been very creatively satisfying because you obviously made an amazing film like Dots, from what I've heard as well. But I think a question that I want to ask each and every one of you, if we can sort of just get maybe 1 line or 2 lines from you. What has been the greatest lesson for you from lockdown, and how do you hope to carry that forward as artists, as people? What would that lesson be? Uma, I think we'll begin with you. So I'll just go for the screen and I'll just sort of say the name.
I think you shouldn't take your freedom for granted. I think that's what I learned from this. Yeah, okay, that's it.
Very true. Yes, absolutely. Arzu, what has been the greatest lesson for you, and how do you hope to take that forward in the future? I think you're on mute. Yeah, I think Arzu, you're on mute.
I think she can't hear you because she looks a bit.
Yeah, she looks a bit confused actually. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we come back to Arzu then? And
yeah.
Oh, she's back. Okay, cool. Arzu.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you now.
Yeah. So, what would you say is the biggest lesson for you from lockdown, and how do you hope to kind of take that forward in the future?
To be confident in life and to take the way in parents present, and it has taught me that to
Yeah. Okay, so okay, I think I kind of got a bit of what you said there, but yeah, to be more confident, to be Sorry?
Hello?
Yeah, I think we kind of lost you there, but I kind of heard a bit of what you said there. So okay, I think we'll move on, I think, to Matthew. Matthew, what has been the greatest lesson for you, and how do you hope to take that forward?
I was working on Dots, so what it really helped me with is like keeping myself completely occupied and engaged, and really forget about the issues that is happening outside. I mean, like, there's nothing in our control. So what is in my control is like the work that I can do, and I can just leave the issues to people who are experts in their department to solve it. So yeah, more or less, yeah.
Sounds good. Vineet, what about you?
To be patient and hope and wait for the best.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Rachita?
Thanks, Anuj. I think it's to make myself my best friend. and be able to live alone and party.
Cool. Love it. Geeta?
So for me, I think this time is more for resetting and rebounding. So it's more about finding yourself, finding your coming back to base, resetting it.
Wonderful.
Then, yeah.
That sounds good. Gautam?
Hey, hi. So the biggest lesson out of this lockdown situation for me is that you don't need a lot of things, but you need a lot of.
Yeah, true. Very true that. Shalmali?
Anuj, I am a very live in a moment kind of a person, so I keep doing things. Okay, today I'm on a Himalayan trek, and tomorrow I'm doing something else. So, what lockdown has given me is a lot of rest, a lot of sleep. So, I'm going to look after myself. So, self care is something I will take from the lockdown.
Yes, absolutely. Anandita?
What I have noticed is that arts and entertainment has been the anchor for a lot of people across the world. So independent filmmakers like Shilpa should keep continuing the good work that they are doing
I agree.
and let the creative juices flow.
Yeah, definitely. Renita?
Hi. Thanks, Anuj, for a fabulous question. It's much needed. For me, the biggest lesson is that it's really important to slow down and just look at life and things from a new perspective. And for me, it's been a very, very transformational time, like looking within, self-love. It's amazing. It's such a beautiful feeling not to run after things the way we've been running. Like, we don't know what are we running for. So for me, it's really working wonders and teaching a lot.
Right.
Thank
Prem?
All right. Thanks so much, Anuj. For me, it's been sort of more like, making the most of it, of spending time with family. And of course, people, your near and dear ones who are far away, probably pray for them and make sure that they are safe and sound, and probably make sure as soon as we get an opportunity to be there next to them.
Wow, beautiful. Viral?
Couple of things. First of all, thank you, Anuj. It was a lovely session, despite of everything. So well done.
Thank you.
Two things that lockdown has probably taught me is there's more to be grateful for than what you know, and there is more that you can be than what you feel.
Wow.
So that was a really, really good lesson for everyone.
Sure. Ramya?
Okay, so for me, it's cherish the smallest moments in life, enjoy nature, and breathe.
literally breathe. And Mansi?
So for me, it's kal kare so aaj kare so ab. So it's really not worth thinking one day I will do this, one day I will act, one day I will, do something. It's about the now. Do it now. My mom debuted in a feature film in Tashi at the age of 72. I think that's inspiration for all of us. So whatever it is, whatever you want to do it now.
Wonderful. I love that. Tanya?
For me, it was to make the best of what I have, because I think we take our freedom for granted. We don't meet a lot of our friends. I think I missed all of that. I lost my sleep and everything. I really want the situation to improve and to get back to normal. Yes, learned a lot from it, and make the best of what I have.
Sai?
For me, it's a lot similar to what Mansi said. We always take the best case scenario for granted. And, COVID was a rude shock to all of us in that regard. So really, for me, the biggest lesson is don't postpone your plans. Don't postpone happiness. Do it now, because, as they say, who knows what's around the corner.
Yes, exactly. Archana?
Hi. So I guess one of the main things that I've learned from this lockdown is to be able to put in our creativity, show our creativity. I'm able to sing more, dance more, whether it is a video that we're doing from two different places. My friend is shooting from her house and I'm shooting from my place. That is one thing that I've really been able to put in a lot of time for. And another is being with family. I know I'm being a little selfish here, but I was really happy that my sister was back. So yeah, spending more time with the family.
Nice, nice. Shekhar, sir?
Most of the time I spent in finishing my scripts and novels, and spend most of the time. I have learned to live on my own most of the time, but this time really it was very easy for me because I had a couple of scripts that I wanted to complete, and which I fortunately managed to do this time.
Oh, wow, that's incredible to hear. I'm so happy to hear that. Congratulations on that. And Charan, what would be your lesson that you've learned?
Hi, Anuj. Thanks again. So yeah, for me, it's the learning has been to be grateful for what we have. We take life and health for granted. Over 600,000 people have died. They were no different to the rest of us here. It could have been one of us, but thankfully it wasn't. And we can't be fortunate and more lucky than that. It can happen to any one of us. It can happen tomorrow. I mean, in the film world, it's happened to Amitabh Bachchan. It doesn't get bigger than that, right? So, that's a wake-up call. Look, life is fragile. Life is uncertain. Every minute is a gift. Enjoy it, live it to its fullest, and be grateful for the friends, family, good health that you have.
Wonderful. Very well said. Matangi, what was been the biggest lesson for you?
My biggest lesson would be to learn to breathe, take it one day at a time, live in the moment, and also realize that I have a lot to be grateful for, to be, safe and healthy, along with my daughters. And that's about it.
Sure. Aditya?
I think 7.8 billion people in the world have been brought to a standstill. So the fact that life is precious is one big lesson. And more importantly, from an arts and entertainment perspective, keep producing the content that you do irrespective of whatever happens. Because this lockdown, we have all been looking at, art and content that's been produced much before anything of this. So as long as you're doing the good work, good things will happen to you. And
Fantastic.
Live the life.
Absolutely. Shreyas, I don't think I've asked you.
I guess finally my takeaway would be this happens everywhere, there's always going to be something bad coming along the way. And the way you convert it into the best possible course for you is just the way you have to do it. And it's the way you always have to do it. And that's just this has been my takeaway too, of all.
Sure.
I'm actually quite happy with the whole situation. I get to wake up late. I get to spend some time. And luckily I'm in a country like Singapore where the amenities are there. You have running water. I don't want to sound cliched, but honestly, Singapore is one of the best places you can be in a situation like this because you're so safe and, the government takes such good care of you. So, yeah.
I kind of agree with you there as well. People call me mad when I say that, but I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks it. On a final note, Shilpa, what has been the greatest lesson for you throughout this whole process?
So unfortunately for me, it has not been a laid back, relaxing, catch your breath time at all. Because my work, if anything, has tripled. So, I actually agree with the saying that it's not work from home, but you're living at work now. So that's the situation. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway is that you still need to work on, you make your own happiness. There are too many things going wrong around you. There's too much stress, too many variables that are out of control. But for me, I think the biggest thing that I did was working on dots and completing that, right? So I could make a feature film in 2 months. it killed me almost from a physical exhaustion standpoint, but I think it was so again worth it, right? So again, it brought another new family, and it kept me engaged and productive and happy for 2 good months, and great months. And then all this happened, right? The Kathaa screenings, etc. So yeah, so you need to create your own happiness. I think that's my takeaway.
And on that happy note, I would just like to say a huge thank you to everyone for joining us on behalf of Tongues on Fire and on behalf of UK Asian Film Festival. Apologies for the sort of technical issues. It was such an honor to have you all, and thank you to everyone who was watching us from home. I really
hope
Anuj. You enjoyed today's session, and wishing you all the very best for your future careers and of course upcoming projects. Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks
thank you, Anuj.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.